I would like to call the main meeting of the Julian-Cuyamaca Fire Protection District Board of Directors to order.
It's on.
Okay.
There you go.
Is that better? Is that better? Yes. Okay. I'll hold it closer. We will begin with oral communications. It is now 5 minutes after 10, so we will have oral communications till 10:20, with each person allowed 3 minutes to speak. I'll call on the speakers in the order that they signed up. Craig Sherman.
Thank you, Board. Good morning. My name is Craig Sherman. I'm an attorney, been hired by the Julian-Cuyamaca Volunteer Fire Company Association and a number of individuals, as I'll inform and you'll see later. The first thing I want to do here today is to announce to the Board that the community, through the plaintiffs, have gathered sufficient signatures. One of the parties, Mr. Southcove, if you can come forward, I want to present to the Board an official filing of a referendum petition, hereby to rescind the resolution to dissolve the district. So with that, I'll also present, and I have 2 copies for the Board here. I can get an electronic copy to the Board later. So what this petition represents is a referendum petition under the Constitution and the Code. What it requires the Board to do, and its legal effect, is immediately suspend the resolution taken on April 10 to have dissolved the district, so that's no longer a legal act. It's immediately suspended upon the filing of this petition with signatures. I'll note for the record that there are 18 original stacks and 29 total signature pages there to be verified, but for the purposes of the petition, presentation of the petition, the act taken April 10th is deemed suspended. The Board's required to do one of 2 things at its next regular Board meeting. You either vote to rescind that April 10 action or put it to a vote to the public at the next election. So those are your duties. And further comment for today is that the Board can take no further acts upon reliance of that resolution to dissolve. So no more handing over, no more further proceedings at LAFCO or at the county. So that's the legal effect of it as well. But wait, there's more. The same parties have filed a lawsuit in the Superior Court, and I'm going to serve Mr. Shelver in your official capacity as president, as well as the district secretary.
Oh boy.
I told you there was more. Obviously, you'll have time to read it. I'm not trying to blindside you, but this reflects what has allegations of violations of the Brown Act that has preceded this, ensuing since January and even November of last year. There was an attorney who wrote a Brown Act violation letter, so you were sort of aware of the type of communications and Brown Act violations leading up to the ultimate decision to dissolve, as well as the settlement of the terms and the noticing provisions by this Board. There's multiple legal defects alleged in there. Your counsel obviously will counsel you on it, so that ball's rolling as well. But most importantly, no further acts on dissolution. It's deemed suspended, and we expect the district board to follow the code and the will of the community and the Constitution to vote their opinion as far as what's going to happen with the district. Thank you.
Next is Pat Landis.
I had sent an email to the board, but I wanted to read the email so that it would be entered into the minutes. If the board signs an agreement that gives the county authority to place their engine at Station 56, Who will be the officer in charge? Will VC Van Bibber or VC Stowers have any authority, or will they be demoted? Will our JCFPD captains have any authority, or will they be demoted so that CAL FIRE staff can run the station? Will our engineers be utilized, and will our engine be operational, or will CAL FIRE retire it? If the board allows the county interim authority to take over all responsibility to fire protection and EMS for JCFPD, it is likely that they will have a mutiny of JCFPD volunteers and many reserves. It is possible some members of the ambulance staff will resign. This action by the board is in effect a declaration that the issue of dissolution is a done deal without any LAFCO hearing, without any vote of the community, and you will be dismantling JCFPD without due process. If all of the JCFPD volunteers resign, this could be deemed by the Cumier Land Conservancy as abandonment of the Mosler property, and the land could automatically revert back to the Indians. The same is likely to happen if LAFCO dissolves the district. If the JCFPD board takes this step prior to a LAFCO decision, creating havoc in the district and causing detriment to the health and safety of residents, does this constitute gross negligence and impose legal responsibility on the individual board members for damages to an individual or to the community? In other words, can individual board members be sued? Our lawyers will be scrutinizing the board's actions and decision. The prudent course is for the board to preserve and support JCFPD until LAFCO issues a final decision. LAFCO's first meeting to address the proposal to dissolve LAFCO would not be held until August 6th. As of today, that's staged, so it can't happen until after the November vote. This board could officially appoint BC Van Bibber as interim chief with BC Stowers as backup to operate JCFPD until due process has followed its course. They've been doing it, they can do it, and they should do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen Kiefer.
Okay, my name is Karen Kiefer. For some people that may not know me, which probably most of you do, I've been a paramedic here since 2003 and a paramedic for over 20 years. I want to talk today about public safety, about our community and the communities that surround us. January 1st, Chief Mecham, San Diego County Fire Authority, CAL FIRE Chief Toni Mecham, pulled his auto aid agreement with us because our board would not dissolve. Then, next thing, the next closest resource is Santa Ysabel Fire. Our chief would refuse to sign an auto aid agreement with them. Concerned we would go off the hill and not protect our district. But what happens if the county gets a contract and they have one engine up here that responds down in the desert for every traffic accident up to an hour away, that responds to Three Sisters and is called out for any reason whatsoever? They've even been called out the 2 years that they were here to cover Pine Valley because low call volume areas are low priority. And that's what's happening in the desert, and that's what's happening around Cheetah. And I care about them. I serve that area as an ambulance personnel, and it is our contract with County EMS, so that's why I'm speaking up for those people that have no voice. They pay taxes like all of us. They have no voice. And the county is, I don't know what the word is, but they're not covering those areas like those people thought they probably would have, but they had no choice. There's 2 incidents in Shelter Valley that's happened already under the County Fire Authority. One is a structure fire I responded on. The crew was not qualified to drive, so they had to run to the scene with a fire extinguisher. That happened. If you had appropriate crew there, you could have gotten crew on scene, ordered that airship, because we ended up flying a patient to UCSD Burn Center. And it was 30 minutes before that was ordered when we got there. The other incident was a rollover in Shelter Valley. County Fire Authority closed that station up, closed completely, sent them to Ranchita. A vehicle rollover with 2 fatalities. And there was 2 children in the back seat, and they had to watch their mother die or dying. And it took 30 minutes to get help, and JCFPD, again, was the first one to that area. What concerns me, they have put a career engine over there, what they call career, because they're paid firefighters. What concerns me is what's continuing to happen. Last Saturday, I was on duty here. There was a fire in Ramona. They sent 65 firefighters down in that area into Ramona for a 7-acre fire, which is wonderful, but it strips the backcountry. Shelter Valley engine came up here to Julian to cover, and I feel, my opinion, is political. The reason I feel it's political is because we had 6 personnel on duty that day. We had an ambulance staff, a paramedic ambulance, we had an engine, and a rescue staff. We had a duty officers on as well. We had a medical aid, and we had 8 personnel, and had a situation or incident happen in Shelter Valley. Somebody was in cardiac arrest, bleeding to death. They are going to die because of that. And that's Chief Cal Fire, San Diego County Fire Authority, Chief Toni Mecham's decision. The other incident is involving Santa Ysabel fire. I emailed our board, and I tried to reach out to our board as a decision-making mechanism of our department to inform them that now Santa Ysabel fire is not being used off the reservation for any incidents anymore. It's not our jurisdiction in that area, but our ambulance does respond. We've had a couple of incidents where we've requested them, and we found out they have a dispatch policy that denies them to come off the reservation and violates state mutual aid policy. Our medical EMS director called San Diego County EMS, and the information he got was something about fire scope and something with county EMS. But nobody's approached Santa Ysabel Fire to resolve any of this to what's in the best interest of those people in Santa Ysabel. So if somebody's in cardiac arrest, they're going to have to wait to have help on scene. When there's minutes away, there's help minutes away. There was an incident where they had a traffic accident, vehicle into a tree, and the actual address was in Santa Ysabel, right there in front of Dudley's. And our medic asked to send them because they know they have extrication equipment, because the other engine was coming from the city of Ramona, not Intermountain, the city of Ramona. That's too long. Why would you do that when you have a service down here? So Santa Ysabel Fire is in the fire scope. They have a state ID number. They're signed up with the Ellipsis portal. There should be no reason that they whatever the reason is, why are our chiefs of this district who want what's in the best interest of our community, why are they not resolving this with them? And I'm just going to say it, and because this shows you about the mindset or what this whole thing is happening here is our chief told Chief Baker, and it can be verified through Chief Baker, there are 3 Indians on a patrol. Chief Baker went down there, checked it out, and he came back, and I can't say what he said, but it's not true. It's not true, and this is terrible. And on top of that, what happened recently is the 6th of May. Our paramedic ambulance was responded to 3 Sisters Falls for an incident up there. They were 4 minutes on the road. They were 8 minutes away from another call that came in. The call that came in was a vehicle rollover with CPR in progress. They were 8 minutes away from that scene. They were denied by CAL FIRE Dispatch. I have been diverted by CAL FIRE Dispatch being the closest unit when another call comes in. I have no idea why this happened. No, it shouldn't happen. Heartland Fire has never, I've asked to go to a closer incident when one has come in, and they've always said, yeah, let's do that and send somebody else over there. But they were 8 minutes away. Our rescue took about 12 minutes to get there. They were right there and denied. Something has to be done about this. This is wrong. I feel it's political, and Chief Marinelli has stated many times in the paper and to people, we are one event away from a catastrophic event. From a catastrophic event. Wrong.
Toni Harter. We have 3 minutes left. Ms. Kiefer, took your time.
1 minute. I would like to thank all of the volunteers, all the supporters of our district for keeping us independent, and I would like to remind you that there's a pancake breakfast the volunteers are putting on May 27th. which is a Sunday from 8 to noon at Station 57, and I hope you all come.
Bill Everett.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the same faces over the last few months up here talking to you. But I would like to give you a very short list, just a partial list of some of the other members of the community who deeply want us to remain independent, or at a minimum think this should go to the public. Starts with Mike Mangini and Toni Mangini Winery, Pat Brown, chairman of the planning group, Kevin Dubler, retired fire chief through the Cedar Fire and Pines Fire, Pat and Daryl Straube, owners of Orchard Hill, Jeremy Manley and the Manley family, Jeremy's on the Hill, Steve Logan, retired CHP, Steve McNamara, retired sheriff's office, David Lewis, town historian and fifth generation Julian resident, Okie McNatt, commander of Post 468, Jim Mazzone, 30-year veteran firefighter, past board president, Tom Nickel Beer, a director of the Chamber of Commerce, Chris Stamets, owner of the Warm Hearth, Patricia Mache, third generation Julian resident, Brittany Mache, fifth generation Julian resident. So the impression that this is a small group that doesn't represent the community is totally false. One last question. Organizations since this district are organized in the beginning and governed by bylaws. And I would just like to see a show of hands. How many of you have actually read the bylaws of this? If that's the case, why can't we get a copy of those bylaws?
Last time I saw the bylaws was 1990.
Is there a reason we can't get a copy of the bylaws? It's been requested as part of a California Public Records Act request, and the response to that was, we don't have it. That's no way to run a fire district.
I have a copy of the Public Records Request Act. Sorry about that. There's quite a bit in here that's being ignored. I'm going to give it to Missy. First page, if an agency improperly withholds records, that people have a right for court costs and attorney's fees. The public may inspect or obtain copy of public records at any time. The extent of reasonable agencies are generally required to assist the public in making focused and effective requests for public records, not turning them down. When a person seeks a public record in electronic format, the agent shall, upon request, make that information available in an electronic format in which it holds that information, including your financials. Records may be requested at an agency during its regular office hours. A person need not give notice in order to inspect public records at an agency's office during normal working hours. Public records requests cannot be denied because the chief's not here. You have to accept it, and the 10 days starts then. We have a lawyer here. I'm sure he'd love to get the lawyer's fees. Thank you.
Lori Foss. We're out of time, but we'll have one more comment.
And I think I also have some time on the ADA with the disabilities. So I think I'm not
Speak into the mic. I can't hear you.
I'm pretty sure the ADA allows me to speak too, but I appreciate your consideration. Thank you. That was respectful. Okay. First of all, I'd like to know if there's an articles of incorporation or formation that is available for the public to view. Is there an articles of incorporation that is available for the public to view? That spells out the mission and the roles and responsibilities along with the bylaws that are supposed to be, that spell out all the authority that the board has.
I don't know. I have a set of the state laws that govern the district. If you'd like to.
Actually, I want a copy of the articles of incorporation. That's really important. And also, I was denied a copy of Form 990, which everyone is supposed to file with the IRS, and that states your mission. It's not a Form 770 or 700, but it's a Form 990, and that states your mission statement. And also too, a copy of the bylaws is supposed to be on file with the IRS. And so if your mission statement is different from your actions, then everyone's going to want to know why, and why that changed, and who gave the authority to make those decisions. And then also with Santa Ysabel Fire, them not being dispatched, that's danger. If we're transferred, you're putting lives in danger. They are not allowed, by Chief Toni Mecham of CAL FIRE, they are not allowed to be dispatched off the reservation. Now, for somebody like me and all of my friends in ADA, the elderly, the 51% of Julian, or cardiac arrest or accidents on the road, that means somebody will die. And as far as the GPS that Chief Marinelli mentioned, it's not instituted yet. It has not been corrected yet. Even the county does not have our streets right. It took 13 years in court after the Cedar Fire to get our streets organized and put on there in order to rebuild. And we still don't have all of them in there. And my last notice is the Americans with Disabilities, they have rights, and if their safety is compromised, I have a list of a lot of lawyers who want this. If anything happens to any one of them, and you're aware of the Santa Ysabel issue, I know at least one of you, I've seen the emails, and I've seen actually from two of you, that you're aware of the issue and that they weren't following protocol and bringing it to your attention. Now, who has to die for something to happen? Now, and then also, I think that's it. Oh, how much fundraising have any of you done for the Julian volunteers, personally? How much money have you contributed to the Julian Volunteer Fire Department or the district? Ida might have.
I have notice out on the front that I contributed $500.
I appreciate that.
And I'd like to see all of our names out there.
Okay, anyone who has contributed definitely deserves that respect. Okay, and I think that's it. Oh, also too, Chief Mecham has told Santa Ysabel that because they are not on SRA, that 78 and 79 are SRA land jurisdiction. Santa Ysabel is not to respond outside of the reservation, which means anybody on 79 and 78, they're not going to be able to respond. And it's CAL FIRE's jurisdiction, and they've told Heartland Fire they're not allowed to have Santa Ysabel respond. Now, everybody here is aware of it. It's in the meetings. It's on. If anything happens to any one of us through the Americans with Disabilities Act, this is a different category. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. That concludes the oral communications portion of the agenda. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Anyone wish to remove any item from the consent calendar? Going once, going twice. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? Item moves to approve the consent calendar. Is there a second? Ms. Darling seconds the motion to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. No. Abstains? One abstention, two abstentions. Did I hear ayes down here or
I
no?
think the problem is that number 10, because we're not supposed to do anything.
We're voting on the consent calendar, items 1 through 8. 1 through 8, consent calendar.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve the consent calendar 1 through 8.
Is there a second? Kirsten, you did. Motion's made and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? Oh. Buddy is abstaining because he wasn't here at the last meeting. And the consent calendar includes the minutes of April 10th. You're abstaining on all the other items also, I presume.
I cannot approve item one. I can't say anything about it, yes.
Item 1, right? Why don't we do this? I will remove item 1 from the consent calendar. And we'll vote on that, and then we'll vote on the balance of the consent calendar. How's that? All right. Approval of minutes of April 10. Is there a motion to approve? Motion is made to approve the minutes of April 10. Is there a second? Kirsten? I'll second. Any discussion? Not. All those in favor of approving the motion was made. We were in discussion. Now we'll vote on approval of the minutes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. No. Abstention? 1 abstention. Motion carries. Does anyone want to remove any other item from the consent calendar? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve items 2 through 8?
I'll make that motion.
Buddy makes a motion to approve 2 through 8. Is there a second? Starlin seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. 3 ayes. Did you vote?
Yeah, I voted aye.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't see you. Didn't hear you. Anyone voting no? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries. Items 2 through 8 are approved. We'll move to the Chief's report.
You guys hear me, or do I need the microphone? Okay, I don't have a whole lot this month. Missy asked me to talk slower so she can keep up. We have Rescue 57 back. It's not quite in service yet, but the engine's been installed and it's back. That's the one, if you remember last board meeting, voted to put a new engine in it. So that got done reasonably quick. Update on engine 56 is there is none. I talked to the place up there in Riverside a couple times, and it's taken them a long time. They're hoping maybe this week, but there isn't going to be any waiving of fees or HME stepping up and honoring warranty or anything. We're paying the full fee, and it's going to be ready when it's ready, and we'll get people up there to get it when it is. We had a couple new volunteers sign up last month. We've had a rash of problems with our garage doors, and number one's not working again, and I think it stemmed from the power outages, because when the power went back on, they didn't work. But we got 3 out of 4 of them back. Parts are ordered for number one here, and they're on their way. The contractor's aware of it. Our audit's not done yet. We're still waiting for that. I think I mentioned this before, but Disneyland had sent a bunch of tickets out to firefighters, and they required IDs, and so Missy got IDs, and we gave quite a few tickets out to a lot of our firefighters to go to Disneyland. If you're a JCFPD member and you still might want to go, the deadline's the 10th. I'm going to hit Missy up, but if you don't have an ID, you probably won't be able to get it in time. We had a new liability insurance quote. It's a little bit less, not much, a few $100s. It was $24K, now it's $23,600 for the upcoming year. Our rip and run printer is supposedly installed and running. I don't know if it's not. I don't know if it's working yet. We need tires for our backup ambulance. $1,100, they're being ordered. AC on the backup ambulance went out, $1,200. That was fixed over this last week. Brush engine has 2 broken axles. Apparently they were driving around with 1 broken axle for a long time, and then the left one broke when they pulled it up the driveway here. Those are ordered, and hopefully maybe even today it might get fixed. So we've had a rash of vehicle problems. One of the things I wanted to just touch on, and this is for the board for the future, there's been a lot of stuff in the news and coming out through emails about frequencies of cancer for firefighters, and they've done a lot of comparisons, and firefighters are facing a lot higher frequency of cancer, different types of cancers, from exposure, over the years on the job. Kind of one of the reasons why we have a policy where we don't let volunteers directly respond from home to a call, because we don't know what kind of stuff they're going to get into and then go home and bring that back into their families. But anyway, my experience has been when unions and stuff get a hold of this, and they start studying it, there's going to be a lot of new safety precautions put in effect for firefighters down the road. And it'll affect us, because these things will always be mandatory. PPE is usually not something you can wiggle your way out of. So it'll be something that's going to come down and hit the fire community probably, I would think, maybe in the next year or two. And it's going to, I'm sorry if I'm staggered, I got a cold, or I'm getting over a cold. But the last thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to talk to the board. This is my last meeting. I won't be here in June. But the board needs to start opening a dialogue on the ambulance program. There's a couple things that could affect it coming up. One is possible dissolution. Number 2 is the new ambulance review the new contracting process that's going to start. I talked to Andy Parr, County MS, and they expect the RFP, which is request for proposals for the new ambulance contracts, to go out sometime in the fall, and that's going to give the JCFPD pretty much, you're going to know what it's required to bid on, and if it's something that we're going to be viable in. It's going to be different, and I don't know if the district's going to have the ability to bid on it, but I'm a proactive kind of person, not a reactive, and we know this is coming, and January 1st of 2020 is their implementation date to have the new contract in effect. So that gives about a year and a half to start. We have 7 employees and quite a bit of capital with the ambulance program, so and some financial reserves too that we've managed to build up in the last year. So it's something I'm going to encourage the district to maybe put together a committee or something and start thinking about alternatives on what you might want to do between now and potential dissolution or end of the ambulance contract. There's some options. I can talk to the board individually if you like on what my thoughts are. Some of the options have been told to me about what's a possibility. But anyway, that concludes my report.
Any questions of the chief on his report? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on to County Fire Authority Interim Service Agreement presentation. You've received with your documents this morning a proposed that was distributed to board members last week. The board members have had an opportunity to review it. And I think at this point I would like to invite Chief Mecham to review this proposed Cooperative Fire Protection Prevention Services Agreement.
Good morning, everybody. Toni Mecham from the County Fire Authority. Essentially what you have in front of you is an interim agreement for services. This essentially restores all of the services that we had in the previous agreement, which expired on January 1st. This agreement is in no way, shape, or form tied to any pending action or non-action at LAFCO. This is a standalone agreement with the district. You have the document in front of you. Can certainly go through it, but essentially the county has agreed to what we'd agreed to in the terms and conditions, that we would commit to Amador funding or the winter funding at Cuyamaca Station 51. We would commit to restoration of a paramedic fire engine in the community of Julian, whether that be here at Station 56, which is my preference, or if we run it out of the CAL FIRE facility at Station 50. A continuation of the dispatch services, and in light of what we've reviewed with the budget, we would suspend the fees for dispatching, which, as you know, in December the board signed a 3.5-year contract with the county for dispatching services. First 6 months were free through July 1, and then we were billing you at $40 a call. We would suspend that through the terms of the interim agreement. We would also suspend any billing for fire prevention services and continue to process all discretionary actions through the county fire marshal's office. We've also agreed to transition any volunteers or reserves who wish to come in to the county system and leave them here in Julian. That would immediately mean that those reserves would be begin receiving a county stipend pay of the roughly $100 per shift to work here at this facility. We've also agreed, we have a new classification within the reserve program of a water tender operator. For any of the volunteers or reserves who wish to participate in the water tender program, we're in the process of re-outfitting and bringing back a water tender to put at Station 50. So essentially that on the resources, county also commits to providing backup and reserve equipment. I think one of the things here, it's hard when you write an agreement. We would like to have some further discussion with the members of the district as far as what is the right vehicle to be here. You know, do the reserves want to continue to operate the rescue, or would the community better be served with a Type 6 patrol that has a limited amount of water? So certainly we're willing to have those discussions, and we left that part on the apparatus somewhat vague, awaiting direction of the board. Finally, the county would commit to restoration or full-time training staff. This is Target Solutions, a commitment to applied training here, and that's all listed in Exhibit A under the scope of work. So that's essentially the agreement, and I'd certainly be glad to take any questions that the board may have.
Any questions from members of the board of Chief Mecham? This is an open-ended contract?
Yes.
No expiration date?
No expiration date.
Could be canceled by either party?
Yes.
120 days notice?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
And just one note, if should the board decide to do this, we're prepared as soon as May 28th to return the paramedic engine. We do need a little bit of lead time due to some narcotics issues and a few things with our DEA permit, but we believe we could have the medic engine in service here on Monday, May 28th. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions?
Yeah, see on paragraph 18, there is a definite term for this contract. June 1st, 2018, May 30th, 2019.
Yeah, I'll clarify. So for everybody, you're correct. The term of the agreement shall be effective June 1st, 2018, or May 28th, it's Monday, and end on May 30th, 2019, unless extended as provided herein. So we have the ability to mutually extend this up to 5 years. And for those in the audience who couldn't hear, we're looking at paragraph 18 in the agreement, items 18.1 and 18.2 on page 4.
Did the community have a copy of this that they can look at, and were they properly noticed? I didn't see it wasn't attached to any of the agendas.
Did the board read it before today?
Yes. I presume so.
I'd like to have public comment. I would like to make a public comment and ask questions.
Any other questions of Chief Mecham?
I would like to make a public comment.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any people, anyone in the audience wishes to speak to this? Yes, Craig Sherman. Mr. Sherman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I put my name on the comment sheet for both non-agenda public comment and item 10, so thank you.
I know that now. Thank you.
As reflected in the letter I provided, one, the legal effect of the petition is to suspend any further actions as to dissolution. So please take note of that. It's in the record. I think the prudent act and I think the responsible act would be, one, to consult with counsel, table this, would be our recommendation. Number two, there's no rush or immediacy, necessity for this. I think the act of the board rushing into this and going forward is exactly that, in furtherance and the rush to dissolve and dismantle the district as has been going forward. I think comments by Chief Mecham reflect that. He's used the words, look, I mean, we all know what's been going on with the withdrawal of support from the county, break you down, and then come forward and dissolve the district and take it over. So now it's like, all right, well, we're moving forward to solution. We'll start returning the resources. That said, I think the words by Chief Mecham reflect that. He said, we're going to start to restore. We're going to bring things back. He used the words, we're going to start transitioning in. He used the words transition. And then as my letter reflects, one of the whereases in your proposed decision for today talks about, this is an act to begin the exchange of funds, and I quote it in here. It's one of your whereases, the returning the resource and exchange of funding during the district's dissolution process via this interim service agreement. You're moving in. We're asking you to put the brakes on. Legally, you're required to put the brakes on. I think it would be, one, irresponsible, two, illegal, and we'd ask you to not move forward with this agreement in this interim period. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Ms. Harter, you wish to speak?
No, because this is like getting a letter that says you agree to the terms of Exhibit A, but there's no Exhibit A. This is not attached to the agenda that was posted that the public was given notice of, so I haven't had time to read it. I'm impressed that you all actually had a copy before today, but the public didn't. And your job as elected to the board to support the district is to actually take consideration of public opinion and public comments, and anything I say you never listen to. So
Okay. Thank you. Your copy does not have Exhibit A.
We've never seen it.
Your copy does not have Exhibit A. Is that correct?
There is no Exhibit A. I'm saying the agenda that was posted that said we're having a meeting today and we allow public comment because we're legally required to. I've never seen this until this morning. So I'm
Okay.
impressed that you've seen it, but the public and your vote is supposed to reflect public. How can you do that? Just because
We've
you want to is
we've
not
been
sufficient answer.
presented with this proposal, which the board has to determine whether it's in the best interest of the district and the community or not.
Well, then maybe
Okay.
you should table it until you have a chance to actually study it and understand what these terms mean.
Okay, thank you. Karen,
Yeah.
try to keep it to 3 minutes this time.
For the first thing, I want the board to see January, our staffing pattern. This is every day. This is after the fact. This is not the schedule before. As you can see, there's in red are the volunteers that go home, take a support vehicle. So everybody else in black is here at the station 24/7. These are the apparatuses right here that are covered or cross-staffed. We have adequate coverage every day. I don't know what you're told or whatever. I don't know. But the other thing I want to say is the
These
same.
are reserves or volunteers?
These are
Volunteers,
both.
right?
No, both reserves and volunteers.
Okay.
Reserves and volunteers. They're all volunteers. They're local and non-local. The people in black are the people that stay here at the station.
Okay.
So the other thing I want to say is in Intermountain Fire, the same type of interim. I didn't read their contract, but that was similarly the same contract they did, as soon as they pulled their wheels up on the station, they pushed out all the engines and all the apparatuses from Intermountain out the back door. They demoted all their people. They were not qualified anymore, and they ran the calls in their district, and they sent people out to Shelter Valley, other stations. That's what will happen with us if this happens. It sounds nice and packaged that they're here to help us, but I'm telling you, we are staffed, and we have adequate whatever. So
Professional firefighters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have enough money, and I can't disclose that, but anyway.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? If not, we'll go back to the agenda. Is there a...
I've never seen this before. And it is the right of the public to see something like this before it occurs. I'm not a speed reader, but I do a lot of analysis of healthcare documents from a legal perspective. I'd like to point out number 10, audit costs. The district, JCFPD, shall reimburse the county for all costs incurred to investigate and audit the district's performance under this agreement if the district is subsequently found to have violated the terms of this agreement. Reimbursement, and remember we just heard what the terms are, right? We understand what the terms are. Reimbursement shall include all direct and indirect expenditures to conduct the investigation or audit. The county may deduct all such costs from any amounts not yet paid by the district under this agreement. That is an absolutely huge potential financial obligation that is inappropriate under the budget of this community and the funding coming from this community. There is no way. Secondarily, thank you. Availability of services is number 2. The county's obligation to provide services beyond the current fiscal year, and notice there's no limitations here, no matter what happens when perhaps career people sometimes, as I've been told, mistreat or don't get along with non-career people, seeing them as scabs crossing a line of where they could make more money. Their obligation to provide services beyond the current fiscal year is contingent upon the availability of funds. It is the responsibility of this board to look at the budget of the county and look at what they're cutting and tell me what you think about their availability of funds. No legal liability on the part of the county shall arise for services beyond June 30th of the calendar year unless funds are designated by the county and made available for such performance. So what happened when this district was formed? This happened, folks. This happened. The funding was gone. And the county walked away. And I'm not criticizing them for that because the way they did it had a lot of class, but this statement does not.
Anyone else? If not, we'll go back to the agenda. Foss.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to correct, the firefighters were called, they were stating that CAL FIRE is professional. Our firefighters are professionally trained firefighters that volunteer their time, and that kind of disrespect is not helpful to the morale of the firefighters because it's tearing everyone down. And I just wanted to say that our firefighters do an amazing job. They're professionally trained. They've saved my life on more than one occasion, cedar and witch fires. I was the last one evacuated, and they came to get me with fires and embers and everything going across the road, 4 horses tied to a minivan, and they came to get me in the middle of nowhere because they knew I was still out there. Now that is something that we're not going to get with CAL FIRE. And another thing, with the CAL FIRE not being able to find us, if they come in here and they're not able to find us, like Camp Marston and the recordings I've been asking for almost 3 months now, the uncut, unchopped, unscrubbed version of the July the 6th, 2017. And now they've transferred me to Sacramento to get a copy of the audio recording. Why in the world am I not just given that? What is so bad about that day that it has to be hidden? And they're not able to find us. So, and also too, to speak to DP's address, the one who said she was waving her arms because the firefighters couldn't find her. Well, of course not. There's no number on her driveway. And it looks like a driveway to the house on the corner. It has names out there, but no numbers. That's her responsibility. There are no numbers out there. And I know you know who I'm talking about. And had my daughter not been at the bus stop at the corner of Blue Jay and Pine Hills Road, I would not have known if I didn't see her drive up that road that that's where she lives. It looks like a driveway. Anyway, no one else is going to be able to find us. And that's placing the Americans with disabilities at severe risk. And please don't do that because I don't want to, I hate lawyers. No offense. I don't want to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Foss.
And I still love you guys, even though I feel like I've been lied to. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Foss. Back to the item before us. Is there a motion to approve the signing the agreement with the county? Sure.
I make a motion to table it until our lawyer looks at what the lawyer presented to us. I don't want to walk down any path that I'm going to get sued for.
Okay. Is there a motion to postpone agreement of this? Or do we want to speak to it first?
I made the motion to table
Okay.
that.
You've made the motion.
Right.
All right.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's made and seconded to table this. Is there any discussion on the motion? Motion's made and seconded to table the agreement.
I need to ask some questions.
Sure. This is time for discussion. It's on the table.
If we, okay. Microphone? What? I'm just asking questions here to Jack and the rest. Are we obligated to, talking to you, the lawyer, I forgot your name. Sherman. Are we obligated at this point, by law, to table everything, or have you already put that through the court, or what? I don't understand what's going on.
What I've presented here to the board is both in writing, as I stated. One, all acts in furtherance of the dissolution. Resolution made on April 10 is deemed by the presentation of petitions here to be suspended. You can take no further acts. That's law. There's no court order. It's an act that is, as I wrote, provided for by statute in our state constitution. That's the question for your counsel. Can we proceed forward with this? I think it's pretty clear that this, and the argument and the evidence has been presented here through public testimony, that moving forward with item 10 would be irresponsible and contrary to that law. I'm not the judge. I've made the legal position. I've tried the backup and the evidence, and I've asked the board, and a recommendation from my clients and behalf of the public is to table this, get advice, think about it, get the information necessary, and don't move forward on it. That's the legal position, law, and if necessary, we'll get a court order if the board does proceed.
Are these signatures, have they all been validated?
They're deemed legally effective as of now.
By whom?
By, as a matter of law, upon the presentation of the petition, the board shall immediately suspend. This board has two acts, and you can check with your legal counsel. One, at the next board meeting, rescind resolution 2018-3, or set it for public vote to let the public decide. There's only two choices you have. With that said, when it will go to the county registrar, it'll be placed on the next ballot, and the signatures will be validated.
So we have never seen this until today.
Absolutely.
And what did the people sign? Are all these signatures to stop this, or are they to put it on the ballot, or are they to have a vote? What did they sign?
They signed a petition to suspend, immediately suspend, and demand that the board rescind Resolution 2018 to dissolve the district. This action, I think I've responded to it. You can read the referendum petition.
Well, the question she originally asked is, those signatures could have been from Walmart down in Santee. We really don't know. Correct or not?
I think
I'm
that...
not talking to you, I'm talking to him. I'm
Sure.
asking him a question.
All right, well, the question from board member Starlin was two or threefold. One of the questions is, has the signatures gone to the registrar of voters to be validated? And that's where they will go, because this district doesn't have its own election paradigm. But for the purposes of suspending April 10, 2018 action, the presentation of the petition with signatures, it's a petition, it's deemed legally effective. Your question relates to when and if it goes to the ballot. You can do any due diligence you want with those signatures. I think your statement is crazily outlandish to say that they're fraudulent and from Walmart. They will be verified at some point. But legally, this is the effect, and that's the legal position. That's what the law is. I provided excerpts of the law in my letter. You're welcome to read it.
But it's your interpretation of the law, not a judge's, correct?
I think I was very honest and clear about that. I don't have a court order, but nor do we need one. It's called the state constitution, and it's called Elections Code 9144 and 9340. You can read those.
One question. Who circulated it? Who was the one that had the petition up? Who headed up the petition drive?
The petition to drive was done through the named plaintiffs in the case and its members, and there's principally named plaintiffs. And each circulator has signed an affidavit as to the manner of presentation and that they're true and correct copies.
Did they have a certified list from the registrar of voters to verify the signature?
As I've stated earlier, these have not gone through the registry. Okay, sure.
But I know with the financial nature of that, they did select enough, they did get enough signatures for it.
Well, your point's well taken.
So they had a list of names from the registrar of voters, and they checked names versus people that signed up.
If I understand your question, it hasn't been certified by the registrar. Have we looked through the list to see if they match up with voter registration rolls? Yes. Have they been matched up to see if they match persons in other petitions? I can't state that, but there is an extremely high level of confidence that, number one, only 200 signatures are necessary for this to pass muster, and there's approximately 300, if not more, incredibly small scintilla chance that this will not be validated for the ballot. You're welcome.
So you verified everything, but you don't have an exact number of signatures.
As I've stated, a sufficient number to pass statutory and constitutional muster. 10% of the voters voting at the last gubernatorial election. So it's approximately, it's either 2,000 voters who voted, give or take, or 1,700. There's a couple different numbers. Either way, that's 170 or 200. You have approximately 300 plus or minus. There's a very large cushion, and with the other measure already validated, proceeding forward towards the ballot and at the county registrars, as I said, no offense to Chief Marinelli, but there's extremely high level of confidence and just a scintilla of a chance that this would not qualify. So if I were to appease you, if you trust me, if you trust the communities and the constitutional process, not to mention its legal effect, they'll be validated later. That's our position.
Excuse me, Mr. Marinelli, the signatures on the petition were not by pay, you didn't hire people to go out to Walmart, if you will. We canvassed the neighborhoods, we talked to people in the community, and we self-verified. There are a few that thought they were registered voters, they're not, but the requirement was approximately 200, and we have well over 300, and we have verified them. Self-verified, because we didn't exactly have time to go to the registrar, and that would be the next step. So we're hoping that you'll abide by legal procedure and accept it.
Two of our board members have asked for a break so we can review these. I'd suggest we break for 1 hour and come back at 12 o'clock.
And I will caution the board, no discussion between members during these breaks. There's been severe Brown Act things that have arisen during these
I
types.
think we're well aware of that.
Thank you. I just want to note it for the record.
Mr. Sherman, there's nothing in the Brown Act that prohibits board members from talking to each other. If we talk to each other about what we had for lunch yesterday, that's not a Brown Act violation. Is that correct, Mr. Sherman?
Are you going to have to talk about it?
Sir, my point was is if you met individually or collectively to review these.
We're going to sit here and read these. Is that a violation of the Brown Act?
Fair enough. No discussion between members was my point.
We can discuss anything we want as long as it's not board business. As long as it's not board business.
I would agree. If you want to talk about lunch, we can go at it. But you know what I was.
You're telling me that anything we talk about between us or among us is a violation of the Brown Act, and I've heard that from people out here that we cannot talk to each other outside of a board meeting. Is that correct? We cannot talk to each other outside of a board meeting.
To answer your question,
That's correct. That's a violation if we do.
I think you could have or should have understood the gist of my comment. You want to review these. You want to discuss options. There should be no dialogue upon that.
Of course not.
Thank you.
All right. We're in recess. We will convene again at 12 o'clock. Brian, we can turn this thing.
Should be off. Tap it. Tap it. I think it's off. Just tap it.
Brian, can you please shut the recorder off, please?
Just because we recessed doesn't mean.
Could you please shut the recorder off? I don't want anything I have to say that's not very important.
No, this is all public discussion. This is all public discussion.
This is a break, Brian. Please.
No, we're discussing public things. I'm not turning it off.
But the registrar will tell you that it's against the law for the public to review this stuff.
But we weren't reviewing it back.
Make sure you don't separate it. No. Well, you guys don't understand the procedures, obviously.
This is for them. This is for them, not for you.
We're talking about this. We're talking about for the public. Hands off, lady. Hands off. Back off.
This is public stuff.
Yeah, it's public.
So let's turn this off.
No, it's public. We can listen. Jeez.
And Brian, do not touch me again.
Then don't touch my stuff.
Do not touch me. I didn't physically touch you. Do not touch my.
Brian, your stuff is here
For board purposes.
Not the board. No, it's public. I do this for the public. I work for the public. I don't work for you. I work for the public. Okay?
in here at a board meeting.
can run all of, these guys could be recording it right now too. You know? Just because I put it up there doesn't mean it's not for the public.
I cover it.
But it's the public that's kicking out private draft.
No, I said, you can look at it, but she was thinking that the public.
Right, which she said she was doing. You can't know that.
No, he didn't. He didn't take anything action that has to do with the dissolution. You can't hire a chief. You can't hire a chief and review the budget. That's stupid, Jack. No, you need to hire a chief for the board. You need to hire a chief or a pocket chief. Oh, you don't need to do anything. You just lost, and so you're just going to walk off. You just lost, and you're just going to shut down and walk off. Well, then we need to replace you with a board of rules or something. Maybe you need to resign. I mean, we need a board that will be actively supporting JCFPDs.
Just want to vote. You just want to vote.
We need a board that will support this fire department. Yes. Yes, then it will go back to Is
You know, that first one is so confusing about fees and things, because Cal Fire doesn't raise fees. Yeah, so they can say no fees raised. But they've never done it. Well, why would they? That just like that's smelly. That's just that's me.
Somewhere further north, what they're doing doesn't, without this, over $400 per hour. So, somebody has a heart attack. If we don't, our permits, our VATs could go to because it is a contract. So you could get one of the paramedic companies down and they will charge you. But that can happen anywhere. That's anywhere. I heard the contracts can start coming out.
Correct. Correct. Well, except for the place. I have no impact on it. He's already gone out. They went for 2 years. That's not acceptable. Per hour.
That's
what they said. Did you hear what they said?
What they say they're covering, and it's how long? Do they care how far they go?
No. Who said that? No, you're saying that.
And spread it.
Right. Or rescind it and start over. Yeah, put that forward. They're following Laughter and rules. That's why we have to stop and talk to an attorney to figure out what's going on. You don't know. You know? I think you know, but I don't think you know what I mean, this is, I'm not a lawyer. Right, that's why I'm asking. Saying that we have to table it. You have to table it and find out what the lawyers say about it. And they can validate the study from the jury. So that's why I go back to the lawyers. We said a meeting. You don't understand it. Yesterday, waiting for this dissolution and everything. We're down there, and that's what they did. So it's like we got insurance. These matters, but before the insurance, because this is threatening. That's why I don't want to act. I can't act on that because somebody in the public will come out and sue us for something wrong. That states it. Listen to what he said. Hear what he said. You know, he's a lawyer. I'm not my lawyer. I just trust what he says. Like maybe I was saying. I know. It doesn't matter. He's a lawyer, and he's stating that. And I'd rather just. It's got to be favorable. And so, a lawyer or registrars or whoever we need to look at it, figure it out, tell us what Therefore, it goes on the resolution. Well, it says you can rescind too. That's what he said. You can rescind, start over. So if it wants to go to the ballot, fine. I don't care. Either way. I'm just saying you got to have it looked at.
I
Half hour later, the little girl's still like, the little boy is like, with his mouth, you know. Oh, we can just go. No, watch this. It's up to you. signing a blank section. Okay, then you're the buyer.
No, he said he had 2 copies. I'm not going to back down. Bible for any state law. They've all reported down. That's just a preliminary. State law says state law, the preliminary budget needs balance. That sounds low. We were going to do that. Rick wanted to put it forth the way it is. Right? We were trying to do it. No, we'll just go through preliminary, we'll go back, massage the numbers, and then the law says revenues must equal expenditures.
Did these funds right away? I mean, they
Well,
in there and got me on the 19th.
we can make it work. We can do it.
No way. They get 5 stars. Yes.
Talking law, read this, and let's follow along this too.
Bill up the school. I was there. He was working on a Sunday, but I don't know what else. Where is the patient?
Oh, you have them? Okay. Okay.
I spoke to our attorney a couple minutes ago on the phone, and I spoke to the attorney a couple minutes ago on the phone with some tensions on public. We have to safeguard that, so he's coming here looking at signature. You have to safeguard that. He's coming to I was so surprised and he brings up this San Diego legal counsel, like we're the employee of this, and not work. Thank you.
I spent a lot of time on this district and spent a lot of money on it. What I've given, I'll give it to you. You're trying to kill the district. Well, that's. This is
1, 2? Yep. Our secretary is on a break. On a break. We'll wait till she gets back.
Missing. He said he doesn't have his.
So now
It wasn't there. I'm just saying there's one missing. That's the way it is.
Not our fault that it's not there.
We logged and gave it to you, so they're all.
The petition you signed is missing, and brought the claims that we have it.
It says 18 and 18.
Says there are 18?
Oh, it
Says there are 18, and there are 18 there, but not the one that he signed. So how did we?
I'm just telling you, those are laws.
How did we lose
that? And if you didn't say it, they don't show up the right spot, it's on the
Great.
Even though it wasn't turned in, it's still on us, right?
Whatever you received was logged in.
Okay, thank you.
Assume you have copies of those, so that's our copy. You're gonna. Don't those go to the registrar?
Yes.
goes to our lawyer.
We're certified, we take it down there.
Okay.
Our attorney state what needs to be done.
We'll see what our attorney says. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. We're back on the docket. We took a break so that board members could, who wish to, could review the petitions. We're back under item 10. There's a motion on the floor to what was the motion?
Table all action until the attorney reviews this. Until he reviews the petition, referendum. We can't move forward, according to the lawyer, on anything towards dissolution.
Okay.
Buddy seconded it already, right?
Yes, Buddy seconded it. Now you need to vote.
I need to know the exact language. Under Robert's rules, there are several ways to either postpone or defer action. What was the motion?
To table until our attorney reviews.
Okay. Motion is to table action on the agreement between the County of San Diego and the Fire Protection District. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to table, vote aye. Aye. Opposition to the motion to table, vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion fails. Is there another motion?
It's going to break the law. I think. I don't know.
You're the lawyer, I'm not.
I just read what he wrote. He's the lawyer. I just read what he wrote. He said we should not move forward. Therefore, I think we should have our lawyer look at it.
All right.
And that's why I said table it.
The lawyer said that this action is in
violation of the Constitution.
Illegal.
Violation of the Constitution.
Okay.
But we all took an oath. But when I was
Okay, just a point of clarification. This is an MOU with JCFPD and the County Fire Authority. We, as an independent district, can enter into any agreement with any entity, including a private one. So, just an FYI, you're not breaking the law in entering this agreement.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You are.
Yeah,
no, you are.
Why did you become an attorney?
We're not.
It's in the fire district law.
That's okay, go ahead and go.
Very clear. The fire district has the authority to
I
enter
don't-
into
I
any
don't-
agreement with any agency.
Okay.
Just telling the board.
There's a motion.
There's a referendum.
Motion on the floor. Motion is made to sign the memorandum of understanding between the district and the county. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no.
No.
Motion carries. We'll move on to the next item of business. 11, hiring process for district chief position. We appointed a subcommittee to do that. Present us with the process. Buddy, is that you?
It was Buddy and me.
Buddy and Ida. Who chaired it? Who chaired it?
It wasn't a chair designated. At the end of the meeting, they asked me to come up with a list of qualifications I felt like a chief for the district should have. I did. I sent it to all you guys with your hard copies.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to deal with the hiring process for the chief position?
I'd like to table that until June.
Motion to table until June. Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion on the motion to table? I have no objections to that. Anyone else? There motion to. You want to speak to this motion? Please do. No.
At our last meeting, we discussed how important it was to hire a replacement chief, and we also discussed the amount of time it took to put a notice, look at resumes, and now instead of actually going forward with that project, you're just going to say, well, we'll think about it in June, so we're not going to we don't need a fire chief.
We haven't voted on the motion. It's just a motion right now.
What's a motion to?
It's a motion to defer. It's not a motion to not do it. It's a motion to defer it until June.
In June, and if it takes 2 months of a process to receive resumes, look at them, do proper public notice that we're hiring a fire chief, it was my understanding from the last meeting that would take like 60 days. So in June, we will have no fire chief, and you're not even going to discuss qualifications for the process until June. So we will have no fire chief for...
That's the motion on the floor. It hasn't passed yet. You're assuming it's going to pass. Okay. Karen?
So also I want to say, under your contract, you're not doing due diligence and trying to find a fire chief and due diligence and getting a fire chief.
Okay.
Continuing
It's not his job to find another fire chief. His job was to assist us, and he has. Okay? The motion is still on the floor. Any further discussion on the motion to defer until June? All those in favor of the motion to defer, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? One abstention. Brian abstains. Okay. Number 12, entering an automatic aid agreement with Santa Ysabel Fire. Buddy?
And that was me. And I think this is something we should do at this point in time.
Microphone?
We have, this is something I believe is critical to our area down in Santa Ysabel, the Winola Estates area. I checked with Rick on this. I think in the past 4 years, we have responded twice to assist them. They have responded more than 4 times to assist us. So I think the scales are balanced in our favor more than they are in theirs. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Any further discussion? Okay. Is it possible to have amend this agreement to indicate that we will not respond if we don't have
If we don't, yeah.
have
Because
staff?
that's the way automatic aid works. If you don't have the resources, you don't respond.
That's not how automatically.
That's how.
That has how this has worked in this town since 1988 when I got on the board.
Okay.
You see that we have days on this calendar that we only have 2 people on, and if we got involved and it is auto pay, we have to respond. That could leave us abandoning doing.
Well, how about the county agent that's going to be here?
Could you please sit down?
No, I want to comment.
You don't have the
It's not
floor.
public
She's
discussion.
talking. Well, I'll comment on the issue. When county fire authority has to engineer 2 people in response out of the district for other calls, same thing.
Okay.
I make a motion at this time that we don't accept the report for auto aid.
This is outrageous. Public
Well,
security. This is outrageous.
the motion's been made that we not enter in a mutual auto aid agreement with Santa Ysabel. Is there a second to that motion? Okay. That motion fails for lack of a second. Is there a motion that we enter an agreement with?
I will make a motion that we not do an automatic aid, that we do a mutual aid agreement with their signatories to the county mutual aid. If we need their assistance out on the highway, I want them dispatched. Sorry, Tony.
We can call.
We need the help.
I second that motion. That's from mutual.
We can, and we have mutual aid with them now, don't we?
We have not, for the district, because remember, we don't have jurisdiction outside of our district. In JCFPD, there has been nothing presented to anybody to prohibit us ordering Santa Ysabel into our district of mutual. We have not done anything, so that's already in place. And we use it pretty consistently. It's outside the district where the contention's been, Santa Ysabel West, and we don't have jurisdiction to say that big over.
Well, we do in a way because we have an ambulance contract and as executives of the ambulance
The
contract.
ambulance contract doesn't give us jurisdictional authority in that area. The agency in
Medical
charge
aids it does. The medical aids it does.
And county fire authority does not want to use them off the reservation, so it's going to be their bad. Somebody's dying, doesn't know.
I'll ask this to the chief, if our ambulance is dispatched to an incident of some sort within the ambulance service area, but outside of the fire protection district, the ambulance is obligated to respond, correct? Are we obligated to respond with the ambulance?
No.
The jurisdiction within which that incident occurs is responsible to provide fire. Okay.
What about the closest resource with state mutual aid? That's violating your own state.
So again, I'll try to clarify it again one more time. Even if you made a motion that Santa Ysabel, we have Santa Ysabel respond to St. Douglas, and you guys make a motion saying that's going to happen, the jurisdictional agency does not have to honor. We cannot force our will on another jurisdiction just because it's in our EOA. All that EOA is, it's exclusive area for our ambulance to service that area for ALS transport. It's basically a business. It's basically a business model. So contractors can bid on a certain amount of calls in an area, but it doesn't give the ambulance jurisdictional authority. It doesn't. So we can argue about it all we want, but it's no different than we can go to San Diego City and dictate how they're going to run their calls. We can't do it to the fire authority or CAL FIRE or anybody else either, unless we have an agreement with them to do that. We don't.
So let's dissolve our department and let them have jurisdiction here and not do what's right for the people. Let's do that.
Karen, if you would be kind enough to
No, I
wait until you're called on. Okay. Buddy, what's going to get us to where you want to be on this item?
We're all signatories to state mutual aid agreement, right?
Yeah.
If our ambulance gets on scene and needs their assistance, I want our ambulance to be there. My family travels on 78, 79 corridor, 79.
I understand, but it's out of our jurisdiction. We can't order another agency to specific name request certain resources in their jurisdiction. We can't do it because we don't have any jurisdiction. We have no responsibility or jurisdiction in that area. An ambulance in basic ICS says if you're the first on scene, you take IC. Until that time, it's the dispatcher that has incident command. Once the first unit's on scene, you take incident command, and you order appropriate number and type of resources you need. You don't ever name request anyways. That's kind of a ICS taboo to name request specific resources because you don't always know that they're not committed or they're in service to Lake Henshaw or Warner Springs doing inspections or whatever. So as a resource, you don't really know that. So that's the dispatcher's job to send the closest appropriate resources. And the agency that has jurisdiction sets what those appropriate resources are. And then in agencies outside of ours, they always have a duty officer / battalion chief that's assigned to those areas to adjust those dispatches based on reports coming in, smoke columns, number of reports coming in, then they can up those things. But name requesting is pretty much never really ever happens anymore. And again, we don't have that authority to so you guys can do this, it's fine, and they're here and I'll tell them, but they don't have to. They don't have to. And so but if mutual aid is right, you're right, it's there. And I have no objection with them coming into the district and assisting us anytime we need them. I don't have any objection, and nobody's supposed to put that out there. But we don't need any additional agreement for that. It's already in there. That's mutual aid. We don't have a problem working with them for whatever the reasons are the county is. I'm not privy to those reasons, and it's not really my business.
So if there's an incident down in Winola State, then the folks we can request that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All the way down to our boundary. We can add
all I want.
Yeah.
Point of order.
Okay.
Public comment.
We're okay. That item is taken care of.
Well, let me speak for.
I just wanted to clarify something. They get things confused here about the ambulance EOA district then requesting closest resource when they're outside of JCFPD, and we're getting it confused with the automatic gate agreement with JCFPD to assist us on our calls. There's the confusion. There have been multiple incidents since January 1 where we've had calls in the Winola Estates area, and because of whatever reason, politics, 249 is not attached to our calls in our district in that area. They can be in Winola Estates faster than any unit right here, but they're being denied. That's the question. They come to our department multiple times, either via email or phone calls, sit down and have a discussion about automatic gate, and it hasn't occurred. That's all I have.
Okay.
And I just have one more public comment.
There are two ahead of you.
This isn't germane.
You're next.
I don't want to yell. I'd rather talk to the microphone than yell. Thank you as my board member and as your constituent, thank you for bringing this to the attention of the board because I live there. I have watched a house in my neighborhood on fire and I know precisely who got there and when they did.
Okay.
2 Winola Estates. 2 Winola Estates, I know when they got there and I know that maybe they were on a pie run or whatever, but they got there faster than a lot of people in this room did. JCFPD was there first and they were there second. And furthermore, the people that did arrive did not have the appropriate equipment to diagnose, the thermal camera to diagnose the fire that was in the wall of the house. Santa Ysabel did, and I'm grateful to them. And I'm just going to say this now. If something happens to me or my family and this board failed to make an auto aid agreement, I will not be okay with that. And I will take legal action. I absolutely will. That is unacceptable. I wouldn't do that to any of your families, and I expect the same from you. There's no reason we can't add a clause to the agreement if it makes you feel more comfortable, Jack, saying that we can't respond unless we have resources. I can see that. That makes sense, and I don't think they expect that. But I have been to their station, and they do a good job, and they're willing to help us, and there's no reason not to enter into an auto aid agreement. Oh, and also my insurance requested a copy of it.
I pointed that out as a possibility, but I think that's an unreasonable feature to put in an auto aid agreement. It's unreasonable for us to say, we want you to respond to us, but we are not going to respond to you. So it has to be mutual. It has to be reciprocal.
That's absolutely incorrect, and you don't work in the field. You can sit down and discuss anything you want with any agency and have an agreement. That agency has the best interest of our community and their community, and they will sit down and have that agreement with us.
Okay.
And I'm just having comment. And what is happening in this county is a shame. It's a shame. I can't believe what's happening. This is not just this county. This is happening in other counties in California. And this auto aid, mutual aid thing about them not using people who do not dissolve into their counties from the state of California, this is happening in other counties. And I'm going to meet with people.
We're talking about a mutual aid
That's what I'm
agreement.
talking about, mutual aid. And what I'm going to do is meet with other counties, and we're going to talk to lawmakers, and we're going to make this, have them write into legislation, because I'm telling you, if your children go through Santa Ysabel and you have a vehicle accident, and I know I've been angry, I know it, but my God, if your children go through there, your grandbabies, and have a vehicle accident, and they're crushed in a vehicle, and you have minutes away, help, my God.
Thank you.
Okay, I drive through the area, Dudley's, and I'm used to tourists passing me on a double yellow line. There are accidents almost every weekend, and I can tell you that if I'm involved in an accident and my car's on fire and you need jaws of life to get me out, I don't care who the hell you call, but it should be the first responder that's 5 minutes away in San Ysabel, not Ramona.
Thank you. Let's get back to the motion.
I want to clarify just one more time, because you guys are yelling at the board. This board does not have authority to order another agency
to dispatch equipment outside of our jurisdiction. So they cannot do that. So the part about the board about Dudley's and Santa Ysabel, they don't have jurisdiction. So they cannot do it. And like I've said already, there's nothing inhibiting Santa Ysabel from coming into our district. We've never set any policies. They're part of mutual aid, and we have used them.
Okay.
So this is just about an auto aid agreement, right? This is about an auto aid agreement. Which the board has authority to sign, and I live in district and they can respond.
Even if we sign an auto aid agreement with Santa Ysabel, which we don't need because we have before the district for mutual aid, it's still not going to have them go to Dudley's.
Right, I understand that. So my homeowner's insurance wants a copy of the agreement, and we don't have one, and they can't understand why.
We have mutual aid. We do have mutual aid, and that's what Buddy has asked for. Mutual aid. Karen, will you sit down? You haven't been called on. Sit down. Sit down. Or stand, if you like. Toni, you've been listening to this discussion. You have some expertise in this area. Would you?
Let this guy talk.
He's not resident of our district.
So I'd like to clarify a couple of things for two hats. One, we have attempted as a county to schedule a meeting with Santa Ysabel. I cannot speak further to that because of ongoing attorney-client with the county, but I hope we can get there. However, in terms of your business as the district, as your dispatch agency, you do have the authority, if however you want to enter into a mutual aid or auto aid as your dispatch entity, we will certainly request those. What we need from you to implement, and Buddy, please try to help me, is a copy of what exactly the standard response plan is, because as a volunteer fire department now, we simply tone. So we would need to know what exactly you want to go to each call, and then what is the mechanism for getting that resource? Is it we're still signatory to mutual aid with them as well? Or do you want an auto aid? How far does that auto aid go? So I guess I'm just asking the two separate hats there. I don't want to confuse the issues between the county and the tribe. Those are a separate and distinct issue from what you do in your district. Should you decide to do it in your district, we would just need the elements or the plan to give to the dispatchers to know when and where and how to implement the direction that we get from the board.
Okay. All right. The item on the agenda
I have one more comment from public.
is the question of entering into an
I have one more
automatic
comment.
aid agreement with.
I'm good. I want
The
one more
motion
comment.
is to.
I'm going to comment anyway.
Okay, the motion is on the table to enter a mutual aid agreement with Santa Ysabel Tribe. Correct? Well, I think
Would that mutual aid only be going in their reservation and then coming in our jurisdiction? So only if we go into their land and then come into our district, that doesn't count, 79, 78.
from what I.
Ambulance. We used to go on their reservation all the time to fight fires.
Right.
We did from 1975 until I left the department in
I've been on a call
2006.
there, I understand. I'm just trying to clarify what you're.
We still do.
We still have a mutual aid with.
When requested. And I don't mind passing a resolution for us to have automatic aid with Santa Ysabel. That's what this board feels is appropriate and in the best interest of the community. Even if we already have mutual aid, there's nothing wrong with being redundant. From what I hear Chief Mecham saying, we can add any codicils to that mutual aid agreement that we want. That would be made available to the dispatchers. Right now, it's just mutual aid, and if we call for help from Santa Ysabel, the dispatcher will dispatch it. If they call for help from us, the dispatcher will dispatch it. Is that correct? Am I correct in that?
Yes, if it's in respective jurisdictions.
Yes, okay. It really sounds to me like, from what you're suggesting that we should have, we already have.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify it though, because insurance companies that do not accept mutual agreements.
I'm sorry?
There are people losing their homeowners insurance. She's not the only one. My son's boss, Eric Evans, is in. He's a contractor. His wife also works for schools. Their insurance is, there's people there that are having problems with their insurance, the way the insurance companies work these days.
Yeah, I could address that. If that's happening, I'd like to see a copy of that letter, and we could give them copies of the state master mutual aid agreement that not only shows Santa Ysabel, but County Fire Authority, CAL FIRE, and all the other agencies in San Diego County that are part of that, which is more powerful than just automatic.
That is what they want. They want the copy of our auto agency. Because the station is no longer 5 miles from Rowell. The station is now 7 miles almost from Rowell. And so they will split the difference between the two. If we have an automatic aid agreement, I'm not talking about state mutual aid, which is already in place and should be being used appropriately as such. Automatic aid agreement, and I've already talked to them about they're willing to enter into a business. They have agreed. I know it's redundant, but insurance companies, they're careless.
Okay.
They just don't care.
Bring a copy of the letter in so the chief can see it. Okay? Let's move on. There is a motion on the floor. So let's either pass the motion or vote it down. That's where we are, is with the motion on the floor.
Restate the motion.
What?
Restate the motion.
The buddy made a motion for mutual aid with Santa Ysabel. No, that was taken off because it wasn't seconded. So, is there a second? Is there a new motion?
We have to deal with this motion one way or the other. We can't have a second motion on the floor.
Well, we need a second. Buddy made the mutual aid agreement, motion. I'll second his mutual aid.
So
Okay.
let me before we make a motion, before you guys vote for something that's already in place.
Yeah.
Okay. There's already is mutual aid. If you want, I don't know that you need a motion for this or not, but I can work with the ECC and I could come up with, because Chief Beecham hit it right on the head. Most agencies have a standard dispatch plan, and it includes what's first out the door for everything in certain areas. I could develop that, run it through you guys, and we could simply send it to ECC. So when there's a call in our district, let's say from, and I'm just throwing an arbitrary place out, so don't get, let's say Pine Hills Road and 78 to Santa Ysabel, then Santa Ysabel's automatically dispatched to those calls as part of our first out in Julian-Cuyamaca. We can do that. We don't need an MOU. I just need direction to do that. If you guys like, I'll draw it up for your next approved meeting, and you guys can approve it, and then we can, or I'll just do it. As the chief,
How about if I withdraw that motion and direct Rick that before he retires, it gets done?
No, that's not my point. Point of order, because the agenda item says entering into automatic aid. The agenda item says nothing about mutual aid. You are voting on something that's not even on your agenda.
That's correct.
It was just withdrawn.
It's a product of that item, because we've discussed that item and determined there's something better, and we can do that.
So
Buddy,
the motion is for Rick to develop this before he retires and implement it before he retires.
okay.
I second that.
For the proper procedure, why don't we vote down the other motion first, because you can't withdraw a motion. Once a motion is made and seconded, it belongs to the floor. It no longer belongs to the...
Yes, Kirsten did second.
Yeah, she seconded your motion. All in favor of the original motion, say aye. Seeing none opposed, say no. No. Okay, that removes that item from the floor. Now, Buddy is making another motion for the chief to...
Develop and implement. Yeah. Auto aid.
No, automatic dispatch. Okay. Any further discussion on that motion?
Just have something. I could make it very simple, and we could say we want Santa Ysabel to come to all calls in our district.
you guys want that, it's very simple, and it's a matter of getting an email to the ECC saying, standard out the gate, you notify Julian, the pages come out as Julian Fire, it could be Santa Ysabel Fire too, or I'll break it off at a place where you guys want. I mean, in my mind, it makes no sense to send them to Cuyamaca, but from Julian.
I'd say Williams Ranch Road.
Williams Ranch Road?
Yeah.
That's good to me.
Yeah.
That's easy. That's simple stuff, guys.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Question.
There was, Kirsten seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed to the motion? All right. Thanks for guiding us in the right direction, buddy.
May I ask a question?
I think we got where we wanted to be. Number 13, preliminary budget.
Jack, let her
Just a quick
hand up.
question. Auto-way mutual agreement, you know, someone wants a copy of papers. I don't know about all that, but does this mean that what you're working for is that we will get a dispatch will go out to Santa Ysabel? They won't be
The way
excluded?
it'll work now, and this is a simple email, is anything from William Ranch Road to Santa Ysabel,
They should know
Santa
about
Ysabel
it.
Fire will be automatically dispatched with ours, and with CAL FIRE.
Fantastic, because that's good for everybody.
It's not a hard thing to do.
Okay.
Can I just?
Let's move on. Move on to the item 13, preliminary budget presentation.
Hey, you have another comment there. You have a dispatch real quick.
This is going to accomplish the same thing, but more simply done. We've taken action on that item. Because this is simpler and accomplishes the same thing. Okay. All right.
I've already asked. If their initial dispatch is the same thing, automatic aid.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Okay, I have a question. Chief Marinelli, you were saying that, and Chief Mecham, that Santa Ysabel could be dispatched or you're in the middle of litigation. Well, of course, because you denied Heartland calling them off the reservation, stating it was SRA land in 78 and 79 were CAL FIRE's jurisdiction and would not allow them to respond off the reservation. So that's what happened. And I know this because I have an internal footing in that group. And I'll leave it at that. So I'm aware of what's happening with the tribes. And so as far as, and also there's an email from you stating that no one is allowed to request Santa Ysabel for state mutual aid when lives were at stake. And that came from you, Chief Mecham, or Chief Marinelli. Yes, it did. I have a copy. I have a copy. And then also, too, I wanted to let you know that if you install CAL FIRE with their not being able to find us, with the GPS not in place, and them not being able to locate our roads, and with the Santa Ysabel issue being not responded, and they're in litigation right now. They can't, but no, I'm just letting you know.
We're discussing this
I
issue
understand, but
now.
I'm just
You're
letting you
moving
know
back
that, okay, but
items
if
that were on the agenda
I
earlier.
understand, but I'm letting you know that if anyone dies or is injured, especially, I will be coming after you with the ADA, including Chief Mecham, and including every single one of you on the board, because you did not correct the issues that were safety issues prior to making the decision. And that's all I asked from all of you.
Thank you.
That's life over everything else, life over money.
Thank you. We'll now move to the preliminary budget presentation. Presenter is the Budget Committee. Buddy.
Yeah. Now, I've been told you can't use reserves to balance your budget.
Microphone, buddy.
I'm not loud enough?
I know.
Okay, I've been informed that you cannot take money out of reserves to balance your budget. I want to see the legislation that says that. There is no state or federal requirement that says you cannot take money out of your reserve to balance your budget.
I didn't say that. I sent you a copy of the
Yeah.
legislation.
Right.
And you can
And if
interpret
you
it
pull,
any
and
way
if
you
you
want.
pull money out of your reserves to balance your budget, you are allowed to do that.
Okay.
The balance.
All right, the preliminary budget is presented. Anyone on the board wish to make any comments about the proposed preliminary budget? Fire budget first. Proposed fire budget has indicates a total income of $476,000 and total expenses of $506,500, with a deficit to be provided or filled from a transfer from the general fund reserves. Any other discussion on the budget? Okay, it's here for introduction and discussion at this meeting, and it'll be on the June agenda
We can go back and massage it.
for,
No, because once you set it in stone, it's set in stone.
it'll go back,
Huh?
it'll be on, this is preliminary presentation.
30 days to do it.
Is this, Buddy, is this the time for review and discussion of the present?
Do it now.
It's either do it now or do it in June. I think we can do it in June anyway before we adopt.
If you make changes in June, you got 30 days, you have to wait before you do it.
Okay, so if we want to make any changes and have a budget by July 1st, we should make them now.
Or, as you said, we can put the budget off until after the 1st of July, but I wouldn't recommend that.
That's not good policy. But if we aren't able to reach a decision on the budget in June, we would have to adopt a resolution to operate on what's known as a continuing resolution. You operate on based on the current year's budget into next year until you have a budget.
The federal government is famous for that.
Right?
The federal government is famous for that.
Does it every year. They don't usually have a budget until several months into their fiscal year, but that's not necessarily good fiscal practice. So let's go ahead and discuss the budget now, and if anybody has anything they'd like to comment on or suggest changes in, we should do it now.
Buddy, on the fuel, we went down $3,000 from $15,000
For which one?
Fuel.
Fuel.
expense. With the price of gas, is that going to hold us over?
We get our gas through the county, we buy the fuel through a county contract. And
Is it
they
the
said
same?
we were gonna be under budget this year, so I'm assuming that,
We were under budget?
yeah,
Okay.
so far, we're looking like it now. So-
We're on track to be on budget.
We can control a little bit of the fire end of the fuel.
Yeah.
And even the ambulance, I mean, by restricting the amount of driving, the ambulance is gonna run calls.
Yeah.
Most of the,
You can't
so,
do
but
that.
we still gotta expend a certain amount of fuel, we are, and we're on track to do less than that.
Just waste of manpower.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes, just certain things, like the insurance liability went down by $3,000 also? Is that okay?
No, we're splitting it between the ambulance and the fire.
Okay, that's where that came.
So we're moving some of that cost from fire over to the ambulance.
I'm sorry, board members, but we have no idea what you're discussing.
There's vacant seats up here too, you know, there's only one microphone.
There's a microphone from here, would be helpful.
Any other questions?
Can
Yeah, just going over some of this, there's several that are over. Like the unscheduled overtime is already over, and we kept that the same on the ambulance side. The miscellaneous supplies is over, the office supplies are over. And should that be adjusted on a budget item? Since we're already over some of it by not just,
Well, we're hiring another one to cover that. We're supposed to be hiring another medic to cover the overtime. That's where the funds change.
Okay. What about like supplies and miscellaneous supplies?
Okay. So if we, what you're saying is if we hire another medic, which we did not give the chief the authorization to do. We did that. Okay. So that should cut the unscheduled overtime. It'll increase our scheduled payroll.
To clarify, I didn't hire a full-time medic to act as EMS director also. I hired a part-time medic / EMS director. So hopefully it'll pick up some of that unscheduled overtime. I don't know that it'll get all of it, but we're not paying a full salary for a full-time medic either. So it's kind of a in-between thing. We're not really sure. Hopefully he'll offset some of that unscheduled overtime, because that's the direction to him, to try to fill as many gaps. Where we get hammered a lot on unscheduled overtime is you can't see it coming. It's when they get a late call, say at 6 or 7 o'clock at the end of their shift, and they don't get back to a transport till 10 or 11, and 3 or 4 hours overtime on transport. That's where a lot of the unscheduled overtime comes from. We can't. We'll never be able to foresee that.
But we have $5,000 in there for that, so it's a roll of the dice.
What about legal on fire side?
I'm sorry?
Legal on fire side.
We shouldn't be spending anything on legal on the fire side.
We spent $56,000 on legal.
How much of that did we get back through insurance?
None that I'm aware of.
Well, we submitted a claim, correct?
This
talked
is-
about it. Talked about submitting a claim to the insurance company.
Yeah.
For legal.
This is, yeah.
So we might be getting.
If we
something out of
lose,
that.
if we lose a case, we can submit a claim. We're just getting legal advice now, and insurance
No, I'm
doesn't
not
cover
talking
that.
about what just came forward. I'm talking about the past cases. We talked about it with, what's her name? Jenna.
Yeah.
I just know that we have 20,000 budgeted, and we spent 56,700 so far, and we're not done.
Just to clarify your question, those claims that were submitted to us were forwarded to our insurance. We never made a claim to get reimbursed for our cost of being served. So there's none of that money coming back that I'm aware. I don't even believe that's an option for us. I can certainly ask them, but
well, we should ask them.
We have not made a claim to getting that.
To move forward with it, we should ask.
The actual claims themselves went to liability insurance.
I haven't heard anything.
Missy, do we know what comes off the number? Because we're already over and we budgeted less than what we paid last year. You know that's going to go up next year.
Well, we did increase it, so there's the ambulance side and the fire side.
Oh, that's another split? Okay.
So is your
Sorry.
legal costs, if you look on there.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Legal costs on the ambulance side here.
I don't see it on the
It's not on the ambulance.
On the fire side, our current budget for legal is
Right there.
an audit.
liability.
Is
Legal. Legal. You're looking at your new budget,
Oh,
right?
okay. Got it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm looking at the old one too.
Okay.
Gotcha.
70 more cents?
Yes, except that we're still 15 and climbing, 16 and climbing
Right.
over this year.
But the proposed budget for legal for the fire budget is $20,000. And we've spent 56 so far this year. So if we pass this budget, we're just going to assume that our legal expenses go away. We don't have any more.
Hopefully we don't do anything where we need to hire a lawyer. Hopefully we get our together.
Don't need to call a lawyer every time.
So that's 40 against
We're still 16.
20. Okay.
That's better.
But it's not what we do that is running this up. It's what others are suing us over that is costing us. Anyway, I don't know anything. I do. You give me my head. Anything else on the budget?
Public comment?
I do have another comment, just to get it on the record, I guess, is that we budgeted $30,000 for fleet expenses, and we've spent $31,000 so far this year, and we know we got another $10,000 bill coming, plus whatever it's going to cost to fix the axle on those two. So that fleet's going to be up to $50,000 by the end of the year.
That's this year. And if this breaks again within a year, we need to revamp our training and people that are operating the equipment. There's no excuse to break an axle on a 10-ton
brought up
truck.
to
There's
Chris.
no excuse.
May I say that we did go through training on some stuff, and it was, I witnessed it was ignored by some people, or unattended.
Then as a board member, why didn't you bring that up?
I brought it up to the appropriate DC.
Well, some of these expenses on the auto side is because of our old mechanic. He should have known on that an axle was broken. It was brought up to him multiple times that the engine pulled to one side. And he said, oh, that's the way internationals run. As soon as Ferguson saw, he said, no. It's indication of a bad axle, broken axle. So it should have been taken care of if we had a proper mechanic.
I think that's hearsay when the guy's not here to defend himself.
Okay.
I don't think it's hearsay.
We have a different mechanic now, so we can assume that $30,000 will be
And our
okay.
equipment's not getting any younger.
It's, 40 years in the fire service, I can say one thing, and I don't know that anyone that's been in the fire service. Firefighters are hard on equipment. It's a tough job. We busted a rim on a call the other day just going off road. So it's very hard on equipment. I'm not saying we're going to have a heavy bill next year or a light bill. All I'm saying is try to have 40 the amount of people we have coming through here and keep them trained at a level that you guys would like. It's almost impossible. And then when they do run calls, it's just very hard on equipment. Our new ambulance has over 50,000 miles on it already, guys. We put tires on it. I don't even know how many times already. And a brand new ambulance. So it's just an expensive thing. Fire service vehicles are expensive. The only thing that you don't spend a ton of money on is the utilities. But even then, they get ridden hard and go through tires a lot. And it's just the nature of the job. It's just the nature of the beast. And you can blame it on process and people, but I've never been anywhere where equipment just wasn't expensive, and then just the nature of our equipment. Big, heavy-duty diesel trucks cost a lot of money to fix. It's several $100 just to change the oil on it. So that's where that is, but you can go 30 grand again.
And then all
Sure.
of us were constantly turning over for training too.
If we run over, we'll just dip into our reserves. Or hope that other categories don't spend as much as we have. Okay. All right, any more discussion on the budget? Seeing none, we'll move on.
Got a question about the budget.
I'm sorry?
I have a question about the
Sure.
budget. It references a general fund and an ambulance account. And I don't see what the monies, what those are. I understand that's a reserve account. And I'd like to know what's in the reserve account.
Okay. Rick, what do we have in our?
It's a,
reserve now?
it's a snapshot at a time, so let me try to explain it like this. So if you have a checkbook at home and you have a balance in it, and then you write checks, comes off the balance. So what's the balance is our general fund. So we have two accounts. We have a general fund which funds the fire and payment of the station, and then we have an ambulance fund that funds all things ambulance. So they both carry balances. Balances is what the reserve is. The fire, so I can't ever give you, I get asked this all the time, but I can't give you a snapshot because there's checks, you know, with the queue waiting to be cashed, we got bills coming in.
Those come out of the budget though, right? I mean, when you write a check for something and it's in the budget,
Right,
Yeah.
it's coming out of that account?
Right.
Okay.
And then we got about, right now in the fire budget, there's about what is it, Missy?
It's about 250 right
About
now.
250 in the fire budget,
That's because
and
385.
around 125 or so in the ambulance budget. And the reason the fire budget's low is because we took out $250,000 to finish the fire.
And that reserve is a combination reserve to be used if we have a major breakdown on a piece of equipment that can't be covered by the budget, we go to our reserve.
And does that reserve reflect the donations that aren't listed or the fundraising dollars?
Very little of that fundraising money ever comes to the district, usually goes to one of the associations or the fire clubs.
So that's not part of the reserves, that's all out in addition to?
Every now and again, we do get a donation. We have checked the other day, and there's a place in here for donations. That's where that goes on revenue. Just goes into our general fund.
But there's nothing there.
Because we don't know how much it's going to be.
Right, so projected, so donations aren't listed as a source of income, part of the reserve.
We have no way of knowing what they're
No,
going to
I'm not talking about projection, I'm talking about current status of how much is in the reserve, so that doesn't include any donations.
It includes them.
Those
They're not set out separately. It's all one big reserve.
Okay, so the donations are in the reserve.
Yeah, if we do it, like we have a $250 check the other day, Missy will cash that, put it in the general fund.
So there's two accounts.
There's an ambulance account that does all things ambulance, which is an enterprise, and then there's the general fund, which does the fire ambulance.
So it's like a checking account receipt?
Exactly.
Right, so there's a dollar amount at the end of each month.
Yes,
that tells us.
there's
Okay.
a dollar amount every day. It changes.
But I mean, like each month, though, you would know if it's...
Yes, we reconcile the accounts and,
Okay, great.
yes.
Okay. There are no further questions?
Yeah. The
Is this
ambulance.
a question or a comment?
It's a question, two questions. Yeah. So the ambulance gets $50, I think it's $50 a call for first responder claim fund. I don't see that anywhere in here. If we have 500 calls a year, just say we have more than that, that would be about $25,000. I don't see that under any income on the ambulance or the fire side.
That's because it's part of our collections. Our collection, the same agency that collects for ambulance collects that, and it gets deposited, not as a separate amount, but it gets deposited on all the ambulance collections. So it is reflected in the ambulance, the very top ambulance fee billing.
So,
and the reason we've kept it in there is because up until this last year and a half, 2 years, we've always been deficit on the ambulance. We never had enough money to make ends meet. So since that money is generated on the fire side of it, we've opted to keep it in the ambulance so we can at least balance the budget on the ambulance. Now that the ambulance is doing better, mainly because of GEMT grant, and which I brought up several times in my reports, we could potentially, and we talked about this at the budget meeting, we could potentially move those first responder pool of funds into the general fund, but it's going to be a lot of accounting for our collections people because they're the same ones who do the ambulance collections for billing. So they would have to break that out and then figure, or Missy would have to try to reconcile it somewhere. I don't know. It'd be up to the board if you guys wanted to separate those out and put it in the general fund. We could, at any time, we could transfer money from the ambulance to the general fund because it's an enterprise into a public fund. So we can do that. So if we're hurting for money on the fire side and the ambulance is doing good, we can transfer some money over. But you can see this whole budget puts a pretty big hole in it. Since we're moving costs over to the ambulance, now we're projecting a pretty large deficit again on the ambulance. So you know, it's 6 of one, half dozen on the other. We could move it over the fire side. It's going to be a lot of work, a lot of processing, but we could certainly do that. It's not going to change our bottom line. I can't move. Let me just put it this way. I don't know that I can't or can't because it's been done in the past, but the general fund is our fire fund, and that's funded through tax dollars. And so to take tax dollars and move them into the ambulance, it's questionable because that's an enterprise that's not our responsibility to provide. County EMS provides advanced life support ambulance services to the backcountry through contracts. So for us to take our fire money and put it there to augment a whole, I don't feel is appropriate, and I also think it could be definitely challenged. I don't want my $50 a year I pay for my home firefighting to go into providing EMS ambulance transport. That's the county EMS should be making a lucrative enough contract for people to bid on it and not have to steal from their other funds. So that's all.
Okay, so the number of $375,000 for the fee ambulance billing, is that what we received from the billing company?
This is proposed.
Right, but I'm saying the proposed.
We don't know if that's the amount number that it'll be.
Well, what I'm saying is, when we get the money from county EMS, you're proposing that money from county EMS is also being proposed what we get from the billing company.
County EMS doesn't give us the first responder pool of funds. It's collected through our collections agency.
And what I'm asking you is that what you're quoting here at $375,000, the combined of those two, and does it come through do we get reimbursed that way through our billing company? You said it goes through a collection agency, so I'm asking, you said it goes through a billing collection agency. Does that go through our billing collection agency? Well, how do we get paid? So the first responder fund pool that goes through county EMS. It's a county EMS thing. It has nothing to do with our billing, but it's a county EMS fund. That fund is set up for the cost of EMTs. I asked county EMS for the cost of EMTs in fire departments.
We're talking two different things. So that money comes directly to us.
From county EMS. Okay. So the ambulance fee for billing, or what we collect on ambulance billing, is $375,000. That's what you're proposing.
That's
for income.
And we pay we're expecting to have to pay $23,000 to the billing company for their service.
Right.
Collecting it. They don't do that.
Right. I'm not talking about them though. I'm talking about the first responder pool fund. If we get $30,000 a year, where is that in the income?
I was mistaken with
it's from county EMS.
The fee we collect for $300. That comes from the collections. The county EMS first responder pool funds comes from the county to us.
Yes, that's what I meant. And I don't see it reflected in here.
We've never broken it out.
But I don't see it in here anywhere.
We've never broken it out.
What do you mean? So you document it? I don't understand.
Ambulance contracts probably added in there, I guess.
I'm not sure where we put it.
Well, we know what we get for the ambulance contract. We know what we get for that.
That varies.
That's separate. Well, no, it's actually a contract that they sign with us.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's not always been the same.
It is the same. It is the same. It's a contract with the county. Anyway, so that was my question. The other question is.
Contract with them too.
Right, you contract for a period of years.
We believe it'll be 117 or.
Well, it's in the contract.
$142,000.
Right, it's in the contract. So
last year it was $142,000.
That's income?
That's what the county pays us to contract with ambulance services.
That should be included as the income.
But it is. That is. I was talking about the first responder pool fund that we get $50 a call from county EMS. If we have 500 calls, that's $25,000. And I'm wondering, I don't see it in here is what I'm saying. I don't see that as income. The other thing is, how much do we have in reserves, in our cash reserves?
About $250 in reserves and $1.5 in ambulance.
And that varies from day to day. Changes
Okay.
from day to day.
So I heard that's more than that, but okay.
It varies day to day. Okay.
Well, this is the time to have any input that anyone wishes to have on the proposed budget. We don't want to have to make changes next month. If we want to make any changes, let's do them now. unless there's something that, information anyone needs to, next month we want to be able to adopt the budget. Okay?
How do we adopt a budget that doesn't even include?
Well, we just do.
You can take money out of reserve to balance your budget. How many times do I have to explain that?
You stated it, but you haven't explained it.
No, excuse me.
What's to explain? You pull money out of reserve, you can balance your budget that way.
If we'll propose a budget, we do every year, we have every year, and we like to be able to assume, choosing my words carefully, that what we project will actually happen. Probably won't. Never does. But we hope it's close enough, and we hope we've underestimated our income and we've overestimated our expenses. It's good budget practice to be on the high side on your projected expenses and on the high side on your, or on the low side on your proposed revenues. If you do that and it works out the way you projected, you'll end up the year with money in the bank, surplus. If it doesn't, if it goes the other way, you end up the year with a deficit. And to cure a deficit, you have to go to your reserves. And we're suggesting that the deficit for the ambulance next year will be $53,492. Now, if payroll doesn't cost us as much as we're projecting there, then the deficit will be a little lower. If the revenues come in higher than $375,000, then we will reduce that deficit. In all likelihood, there will be a deficit of somewhere around $50,000 if we've done good budget projections. And then we go to our reserve, and good financial practice suggests that we operate off our income for as long as we can until we don't have enough income to cover the budget, and that's when we go to dip into our reserves. Generally, that happens the last end of the year. But right now, a budget is just a best guess anyway. It's really our best guess at what's likely to happen next year. And what'll happen will happen probably without any influence from this board or the staff. Most of those things are, we can assume from past experience what's likely to happen. So, if everybody's happy with the budget as it looks right now, the only action today is to introduce the budget. It's not time to adopt it yet, but if everybody's happy with it, we'll introduce it at the next meeting and adopt it. And if anybody has any change they want to make next month, they better be serious changes, because we don't want to have to roll this over another month.
So, just for clarification, because the clock starts running, we have to public notice this in public hearing. So your plan is to do a public hearing next meeting and adopt the budget? Because Missy needs to post that. I just want to make sure.
Yep. Okay. Well, just for clarity, why doesn't somebody make a motion that the budget has been introduced?
I'm not sure when the public comment is, before the motion or after, but I just have one comment. A very quick comment.
After the motion.
After the motion, okay.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to introduce the budget for 2018-19 with the understanding that we will hold a public hearing on the budget at the June meeting, and it will be up for adoption at the June meeting.
I make that motion.
Thanks, buddy. Ida seconds. Any discussion on the motion?
The only comment I wanted to make was to address Christian's concern. To me, the reserves are excess income, and it builds up when you're doing well. And if you have a financial kind of emergency, you use that. It's very similar to if you're a homeowner, you have a little savings account over here that you try to build up so that if you need a new roof, you don't have to take out a loan. That's what the reserve is for. Thank you.
That's correct. Unanticipated expenses.
Yes.
And if our ambulance falls apart, we go out and buy another one, and we buy it out of the reserve. We have $100,000 there, and we can go out and buy a $200,000 ambulance with that $100,000. Now, if we should be putting money away every year to replace our equipment. So when they wear out, we're not doing that. We're going to expend it on operations, not good business. Motion still on the floor?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. We're down to adjournment.
We have a closed session, Jay.
Closed session.
Oh, we have a closed session. All right. Closed session to consider anticipated litigation pursuant to paragraph 3 of subdivision D of section 54.956.9. One potential case. Receipt of a request to file a late claim pursuant to the Government Claims Act. We will now adjourn to closed session.
You got 2 minutes before you close session? You got 2 minutes before you close session? Are you guys aren't doing closed in here. You're going to go. No, go. Yes.
Rick, try to run home real quick, so let's go in his office.
Yeah. Where's Brian? Let's go do it too.
Yeah. I want to get this over with. I'm starving. Huh?
It's not over. It's not going to be over for years.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be in this
Well, this meeting will be over. That's what we're doing. Keep throwing that stuff around, right? It's all paid for. You're going to Rick's office or what?